Hey, Pirate Girl here. I mean, I am a pirate. Check out my book, Adventures of a Pirate Girl, Hitchhiking the High Seas. I'll put links down below. The darkness was bound to come up. You know, I worked through all this trauma from my childhood, and you know, I felt like I was pretty good, and then, wow, we had like 6 years of hardcore mothering. And even now, I don't have a lot of support. I'm alone a lot. The darkness. Just kind of start to have a hard time getting out of bed. And then the voices that I thought I had banned, stupid, ugly, start creeping in. And the darkness just starts making my world really small. Everything feels too hard. It's too hard. I don't know how to do community. I can't be around people. I think I'm going crazy. Fuck, I mean, do other people feel like this? We all know the darkness, right? It's all I can do, but just keep breathing.
So she may only have one mast, but I want to just work on getting her mobile. That means outboard and a rudder. My friend Emmett gave me a rudder that I have modified to fit, and my friend Sarah gave me an outboard. So let's go.
We all have this darkness within us. I mean, whether you experience depression, anxiety, addiction, whether you're just numbing it and working your ass off and running full speed and not stopping to feel, or whether you're sinking into it and can't leave the house. So this is from The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. Throughout the Western world, mental health diagnoses are escalating among the young and adults and among the elderly. In Canada, depression and anxiety are the fastest growing diagnoses. And in 2019, more than 50 million Americans, over 20% of US adults, suffered an episode of mental illness. In Europe, according to the authors of a recent international survey, mental disorders have become the largest health challenge of the 21st century. 60% of adults have a chronic disorder, such as high blood pressure or diabetes, and over 40% have 2 or more such conditions. Canada, up to half of all baby boomers are on track for hypertension. Among women, there is a disproportionate elevation in autoimmune conditions. Among the young, non-smoking related cancers seem to be on the rise. Rates of obesity are going up in many countries. This darkness is a wound. We've all been traumatized by the system. We all have trauma in our families. This system has traumatized all of us. It's actually literally the trauma of the way our society is organized. This triangle structure, the people on the bottom get crunched. The system's really hard on a lot of fucking people. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's actually because something's right. It's because us humans have evolved for hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, up until about 7,000 years ago, we lived in tight-knit, small communities of people who had, you know, it takes a village. It was a village. Even if they didn't have agriculture yet and they were moving, they were tight-knit groups. That's how we evolved. Humans evolved to need mass amounts of love for our brains to develop. They've actually done studies on psychopaths, brain scans, and they find that there's like black holes where their brain didn't develop because they were neglected or abused as children. That's the proof right there. I mean, there's lots of archaeological proof that we developed as peaceful. Weapons were not the center of everything. They did have weapons to protect themselves, for example, in the Mesopotamia area and the Mediterranean. I'm going totally off on this. There is archaeological proof, but the real proof is our brains. Our brains require so much love and attention as tiny babies to be able to become whole, healthy, balanced humans. The fact that our brains need that amount of love to develop completely is proof that early humans tended to live in supportive and loving cultures. So here I am in my friend Bernard's workshop. So what I'm doing is I'm making these little cheeks. My friend Bernard here told me. I was thinking to use rubber. He said I should cut these plywood cheeks, and he said I could use his workshop, so that's cool. Dude, I'm so jealous. It's kind of exciting being in a workshop with no one here. Look at all these tools. I've got tool envy right now. I've never used one of these before. Oh my god, I had all of the tools. Of course, when I was rebuilding my boat, I would have to run around chasing tools and finding tools. It was such a pain in the ass. And here I am again. This hierarchal system that's been around for thousands of years. This triangle system where there's like a couple of percent, you know, of people that have all the power and all the money, and structured so that we're constantly struggling. The system does not support us. Okay. Literally thousands of years of denial about our emotional lives. Endless wars where men have had to go fight and block themselves off from their emotions, have come back and abused their wives, abused their children. These kinds of traumas get passed down generationally. There's been trauma in all of our families. There's no family that has not experienced trauma in the last couple of hundred years to, 6,000 or 7,000 years. Not only are we isolated in our actual lives, driving around in our cars, living our little box lives, away from each other, cut off, but our story tells us that we're alone. Our underlying story, our scientific worldview, tells us that we are separate from each other and from the earth. We are these individual little creatures. The story we've been told that we have no connection to anything around us, that we are these individual beings completely separate from our environment and from each other, and that we have to struggle with each other, compete to survive. This story, at the moment, our collective story is pretty fucking grim. Okay, so here I am putting on my rudder. I haven't finished it yet. I'm just starting. Let's see now, where is this hole? Yeah! We're still being traumatized by the system. The pollutants in our environment, we've poisoned our food, we've got electromagnetic waves all around us, cutting us off from the Earth's natural frequencies. And the fear that's pushed on us. It's no wonder we do as well as we do. Hey, so we're at my son's dad's house, and he offered to help me get this outboard going. Now, of course, I know how to do it. At least I did 20 years ago. Ladies, I know, you don't actually need a man. You can do it all by yourself, which is good to know. It's also good to get help. Nice. Doesn't sound bad. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. We have liftoff. And our doctors, our healthcare system, doesn't recognize this trauma. So our healthcare workers in our system diagnose us with problems and medicate us. Our healthcare system and pharmaceuticals that they prescribe us to feel better are the third leading cause of death by their calculations. So what do we do with that? How do we move forward? How do we create something better? We have to heal it, because the news story, we are all one. You can't just kill the bad guy. It's like yin and yang, night and day, up and down. You can't just get rid of one half, right? The darkness is within us. It is the fertile compost. It is what life is made from. It's actually the feminine, but it's been so tramped down and dirtied. Some people will call it evil, the evil in the world. That's the way our society frames it. It's the evil in the world, and if we could just kill it. But then when it turns it up inside of yourself, you can't kill that, right? Know that you have to face that and heal that, because that's the wounded child. That's the trauma. It's actually, you need mud to grow a lotus. We don't recognize that it's trauma. We don't recognize this trauma. We don't recognize that this is just a system that we've been living under. And we don't have to live under this kind of system. We can change the underlying story. Trauma can be healed. We can heal. It's of course built into the system to keep the system going. We have to recognize the forces that be that are holding things in this destructive pattern.
I am a pirate.
That's what I want to talk about in my videos. The more beautiful place that we live. It's not too late. We can heal. We can about face. We can. We can do an about face. All we have to do is change the underlying story. If we all agree, if we all of our systems and institutions and way that we structure our society, if all of our corporations and governments and, you know, all this stuff, if it was all based on the story that we are all one, that we are all connected with each other and with the earth. If our underlying story would catch up with the science, with the cutting edge science that's being done about how interconnected everything is, how magically interconnected everything is, how the trees and the forest are communicating with each other. If our underlying story would catch up with that, we would be fine. All we have to do is change our story. If everything was based on the story that we are all intimately connected, circles instead of triangles, interlocking circles.
Let's sail away to this better world together. Just subscribe.
New Earth rising.